Welcome to this next episode of Quieting Anxiety. Before you assume it's anxiety, get a thorough physical exam. You might be wondering, why is a psychologist talking about physical exams in a podcast about anxiety? Shouldn't we be focusing on thoughts and emotions? Hello and welcome back to Quieting Anxiety. I'm Dr. Monica Frank, and today we're going to take a step back and talk about something that often gets overlooked. What if your anxiety symptoms aren't actually anxiety? Or what if your anxiety is being exacerbated by a medical condition? That may sound surprising, but it's more common than you think. Many people begin their anxiety journey by trying to manage the symptoms themselves or diving into self-help, like listening to this podcast. But what if some of the physical symptoms you're experiencing, like a racing heart, dizziness, or fatigue, aren't primarily caused by anxiety at all? Or what if your anxiety is worsened by an underlying physical condition? Before we jump into answering those questions, let's take a moment to slow things down. Just take a deep breath in and let it out. No need to force it. Just let your breathing settle into a natural rhythm as we begin. Now let's focus on releasing some tension. Try making a big, exaggerated yawn, even stretching out your arms and hands. Then let it go. Feel your muscles soften, your jaw relax, and any tension melt away. As you release the muscles, let your breathing continue to slow, and notice how your upper body relaxes. Just let all those muscles smooth out and relax. Now back to why are we focusing on having a physical exam? Well, here's the thing. Have you ever had a moment where your heart starts racing out of nowhere and you immediately think, is this a panic attack, or why am I anxious? Or maybe you feel lightheaded and wonder, what if something is really wrong? The truth is, not all anxiety symptoms are actually caused by anxiety. Sometimes things like a racing heart, dizziness, or shortness of breath are signs of an underlying medical condition. Now, I don't want to concern you, but if that's the case, no amount of therapy or coping skills will fix it until the real issue is addressed. For effective management of anxiety, it is critical to know what is anxiety and what is not. That's why one of the first steps in managing anxiety is to rule out any underlying medical conditions, or to determine if there are any that may be impacting your anxiety. Even if you were diagnosed with an anxiety disorder a while ago, your health can change, or you may notice patterns you didn't pay attention to before. So it is still a good time to have a physical. Why does a physical exam matter? So many people assume or have been told that because they feel anxious, it must mean they have an anxiety disorder. But that's not always true. Medical conditions can trigger anxiety-like symptoms or make existing anxiety worse. For example, have you ever had a sudden heart flutter and thought, oh no, am I having a heart attack? But it turned out to be caffeine, low blood sugar, or even a thyroid issue. That's why a thorough physical exam is one of the best things you can do when starting an anxiety management plan. And the exam shouldn't just be a general physical, but should be focused on examining causes of your anxiety. So what kinds of medical conditions should you and your doctor consider? Before assuming your symptoms are psychological, it's important to consider possible physical causes. There are several medical conditions that can either mimic anxiety or make it worse. Ruling those out or getting proper medical treatment is a critical first step before settling on a diagnosis of anxiety or beginning therapy. Let's go over some of the most common medical conditions that can produce symptoms often mistaken for anxiety. An overactive thyroid or hyperthyroidism can cause restlessness, racing heart, sweating, and nervousness, classic anxiety symptoms. In the same way, low thyroid may lead to fatigue, low mood, and brain fog. These symptoms are easily misattributed to anxiety or depression, but simple blood tests can identify thyroid imbalances. Heart rhythm issues like arrhythmias or mitral valve prolapse can cause palpitations, shortness of breath, and dizziness. These episodes often feel like panic attacks, but if they're heart-related, they require different medical attention. A basic cardiac evaluation by your physician can help rule this out. Blood sugar irregularities can contribute to anxiety-like symptoms. If you've ever felt shaky, lightheaded, or irritable when you're hungry, you've experienced low blood sugar. These symptoms can mimic anxiety and are especially common in people with insulin resistance or diabetes. A medical evaluation can clarify whether blood sugar fluctuations are contributing to your anxiety-like symptoms. Respiratory issues such as asthma, sleep apnea, or other breathing conditions can trigger a sense of panic due to restricted airflow. Sometimes the fear of not being able to breathe becomes part of the anxiety cycle. Identifying and treating the respiratory issue first can ease these sensations. Some gastrointestinal conditions can trigger anxiety symptoms. The gut-brain connection is strong. People with IBS or GERD often report anxiety, and the physical discomfort can be a trigger. However, addressing the digestive disorder may significantly reduce the anxiety symptoms. Chronic pain conditions, such as fibromyalgia, can cause sleep disruption, heightened stress, and emotional overwhelm. Pain doesn't just affect the body, it activates the nervous system and can look very much like anxiety. Periods of hormonal change, perimenopause, postpartum changes, or PMS can cause emotional volatility, increased worry, and panic-like symptoms. These fluctuations are physiological, not psychological, and deserve medical attention. Balance disorders and vestibular migraines can cause dizziness, disorientation, or changes in mood, symptoms that are easily mistaken for anxiety. Especially if you have new or unusual symptoms, it's essential to rule out such causes. I'm not wanting to scare you. In fact, the opposite is true. I want to help reduce anxiety by ruling out or understanding other conditions that may be affecting you. Information is power. By knowing what is happening with your body, you are more able to manage it. If you do have an anxiety disorder, you might wonder, how does a physical exam help with anxiety treatment? Well, getting a clean bill of health can still be a game changer. Let's say you struggle with health anxiety. Maybe every time your heart races, you think, what if this is serious? What if I'm having a heart attack? But then you get a thorough checkup and your doctor says your heart is completely healthy. The next time you feel your heart racing, you can challenge those anxious thoughts with, this is just anxiety. I've had this checked and I know I'm okay. It may not be as simple as that because, as I've told you in previous episodes, cognitive therapy requires repetition of the challenging thoughts, but it is a start. That knowledge makes a huge difference when you're working on CBT strategies, because you're not just trying to convince yourself you're safe, you actually have been told you are. Even though I insist on having a physical exam, it doesn't mean that the first line of treatment should be medical if you do have a problem with anxiety or an anxiety disorder. I say this because many times physicians want to immediately prescribe medication when they hear complaints of anxiety. But here's what the research says. CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is just as effective as medication for anxiety disorders, and in many cases, it has longer lasting results. A major study found that CBT and medication had similar success rates, but people who did CBT alone, without medication, were less likely to relapse. Some anxiety medications, especially benzodiazepines, which are often overprescribed, can actually increase long-term anxiety because of tolerance and withdrawal effects. So if you're considering medication, it's worth thinking about CBT as a first-line approach before jumping straight to prescriptions, unless your doctor recommends otherwise. All right, let's wrap this up with some action steps. Your first task is to schedule a thorough physical exam. If you haven't had one in a while, now's the time. And if you've had a physical exam but didn't talk specifically about medical causes for anxiety and what your options are, now's the time. In addition to looking at medical conditions, talk to your doctor about any medications, caffeine use, or alcohol intake that could be affecting your anxiety. Be sure to find out if your anxiety is caused or exacerbated by a physical condition. If your doctor finds no medical issues, that's actually great news. It means you can focus on CBT and other anxiety management techniques with confidence. If your doctor recommends medication, discuss trying CBT first. If you are currently on medications for anxiety, do you understand that you shouldn't make changes in those medications until after you've learned some anxiety management skills, and then only under a doctor's supervision? Your next task is to continue practicing the previous methods we discussed, and be sure to reward yourself for listening to this podcast, scheduling an appointment, and discussing these issues with your doctor. I know how frustrating anxiety can be, especially when your body feels out of your control. But here's the good news. Taking this step puts you back in the driver's seat. Understanding what's happening in your body, ruling out medical conditions, and taking action. That's real progress. When you understand what's happening in your body, when you rule out medical concerns, and when you take an active role in managing your anxiety, you're already on the path to lasting relief. Getting a full medical workup isn't just about finding a diagnosis. It's about ruling things out, giving you peace of mind, and making sure that you're not missing a treatable cause of your symptoms. Once any physical contributors are addressed, CBT tools can be especially effective. But ignoring medical causes may delay progress and cause additional frustration. Once you've ruled out medical causes, then you can confidently move forward with psychological tools like CBT, knowing that you're treating the right problem in the right way. Before we go, let's again focus on releasing the upper body tension. Like we did earlier, take a slow, steady breath in, and then let it out. No need to control it. Just allow your breathing to find its own natural rhythm. Now let's bring your attention to your muscles. Try opening your mouth wide like you're giving a big, lazy yawn. Stretch out your arms and hands. Then let it all go. Feel your muscles soften, your jaw loosen, your shoulders droop and relax, and any lingering tension begin to resolve. As you relax your upper body, let your breath stay calm and easy. Notice how each exhale helps your muscles smooth out, leaving your face and shoulders relaxed and at ease. Give yourself a few moments to just relax those muscles. Now take that next step. Schedule that checkup, ask the questions, keep showing up for yourself. You're making progress one step at a time. Until next time, keep practicing, keep breathing, and keep moving forward.